This is a short. You are mentally disabled. I'm diagnosing you. You're mentally disabled for making this. Actually, those are bad things. What she means is, it doesn't change my life. It doesn't change my life. I'm a middle-class white woman. It doesn't change my life. Okay, this is terrible. Don't care, Whick. Give her the rest. Stop screaming.
Then feel like you were lying to them.
Dude, you. Honestly, you.
Yes,
Go to hell. No.
You see, what you forget is that us YouTube politics streamers, we're just like the most important people. Okay, Whick. So guys, I've heard much about this Whick spurg out, and I watched a little bit of it offline, okay? I've heard much about how Whick totally lost it. He's been wicking out. He totally spurged on Live and Learn. And I have to see it. I watched it a little bit offline. I have pre-watched just a bit. Now, from what I've seen, basically what happens here, just give you a little bit of a teaser, a bit of an idea what's going on. So, basically, Whick comes on with his friend Tallybots, I think her name is, who frequently appears on his podcast. Also, I'm literally not looking at any fashion comments in chat right now. I'm ignoring that completely. So, he brings on his friend here, Tallybots, who frequently appears on his panel. Now, she is like some kind of, I don't know if she's Jewish or Israeli or just a white person that fetishizes Jews or what the deal is, but she loves Israel. She loves Israel, and she's very, very scared of all these horrendous anti-Semitic Democrats, okay? All these terrible anti-Semitic Democrats that are just going so crazy. They're all so radical, you know? She's one of those. So that's what that's what I was going to talk about most on Whick's panels. And she's appeared here. She's a Trump voter. She voted Trump in the last election. She's like a lefty Trump voter. Okay? And she basically on this panel, my understanding is, I only saw a bit of the spurg out at the end, so we're going to try and watch a bit of context. My understanding is that basically Whick becomes frustrated because he has brought her here to be a punching bag, okay? Whick brought this woman along to be like, Pisco, Hutch, Josiah, Econoboi, here is a for you to treat like a and you didn't, and he gets annoyed. He's like, you didn't treat her like I wanted you to treat her as. It's very funny. So I saw like 5 minutes of the spurg out. I didn't want to ruin too much of the rest of it for myself. So we're going to watch some of the panel for context. It is very slow to start. I tried watching from the beginning. I watched someone 2x, and it was like, it was just like impossible to get through. It was like, if Whick's frustration is that they didn't go hard enough, then I totally agree with him. They didn't go hard enough. But I don't know if the way he goes about expressing it is great. And he has like he has a few tweets from after the panel as well, where he's talking about learning that patience is a virtue. Okay. You look like a Big Lebowski bowling alley extra. Thanks, man. Thanks, man. That's really encouraging. That's awesome stuff. Anyway, let's get into this video.
No, you don't think he's being intentionally deceptive? You just
yeah, lying.
Yeah, I think
I run a show on YouTube, Kick.
And yeah, she opened the door to potentially caucusing the trial slash
intervention.
Well, 1.5. Is there anything anyone else has to say about the House bill, which as of this moment, they are inching their way closer and closer to passage, but it has not been passed as of yet?
They're going to get there tonight, probably.
Sure, yeah. Anybody else? Cool.
Yeah, they're probably going to get there, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, so we have two guests here.
Please, leave me alone. Leave me alone, man.
A lot of our audiences, not all, but a lot of our audiences probably know definitely who Whick is, but I have a more seasoned, a more tenured, shall we say, demographic who may not know. So, Whick, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we will introduce the...
You're calling your demo like boomers?
I didn't say that, asshole. I don't appreciate the ageist.
Seasoned,
like a fine steak.
My demo is boomers.
A fine steak.
I got the boomer demo.
Well, maybe, Hutch. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, before we get to the defendant in the trial, Whick, why don't you introduce yourself?
Certainly. Well, as I said, I'm Whick. I run a show on YouTube, Kick, and Twitch called Whick TV. We do a variety of content, political, cultural, all sorts of things. Sometimes we do more serious shows, right? We had a discussion about the recent injunctions, the universal injunctions that were struck down by the Supreme Court, right? And sometimes we do stuff like, are women evil, right? So it's a big mix, but you can find me on
I'm getting raped. I'm getting raped. Dude, Q just had it out for me, man. Q is literally, the moment I turn cam on, Q is just at my throat. It is just like, no, you have to die, actually. No, you have to die. Every time I turn my cam on, it's crazy. It's totally crazy. Don't look in spicy right now. Oh my god. Dude. I'm totally raped. I'm totally raped.
are women evil?
Mhm.
Depends, right?
Ooh,
Depends with
Jesus.
women. Some are.
Okay.
Okay? Women
Well, yeah,
can be
find him
evil
at Whick
too. That's just
TV.
feminism. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Whick
that's
TV. He
me.
does debate panels. It's great stuff. It's like every weekday, right?
Well, not every weekday, but we usually do about 3 to 4 a week. Should be fun. Tomorrow we got Loner Box.
I'm dying, man. I'm actually
debating
dying.
people on interventionism, right? And
Ooh,
who
okay.
should be intervening in the world and stage, things like that. That should be fun. So yeah,
Gotcha.
that's me.
All right,
gonna be
before we
good.
get to Tally, one super chat here. So what kinds of taxes is MAGA okay with besides tariffs? Because it seems like they're just pseudo-libertarians on the issue. P.S. Also for MAGA, cruelty is the aesthetic. Any quick responses from anybody on that? Tally, Whick, anything before we get to Tally's introduction?
They like taxes on poor people and not rich people. That's pretty much the main distinguishing factor between the Republicans and Democrats for the most part.
And gamblers now, apparently.
Yeah.
There's,
All right.
there's a new tax on gambling winnings, I guess. I saw Tim Pool.
I heard Nate Silver bitch about it. Something about
Oh, he's a
taxes
poker
on-
player, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah,
hoping
so.
this can afford you clothes. The homeless shelter is missing your outfit.
I don't look homeless. Fuck you. Thank you for the $10. Hugely appreciate it, Mr. Jones. Thank you so much.
That's a good thing, though.
All right, Tally, take it away.
Okay, well, I am
Dude.
Tollybots. I am Wick's co-host about once a week, sometimes
Homeless
twice a
people will be
week.
called dead and shit.
We are still kind of figuring out.
Wait, she's Wick's co-host now? Really? Dude, I'm fucking dying. I'm literally choking. Wait, I need to cough. Just give me 2 seconds. Okay. I've recovered. Yeah, she's Wick's co-host now. What is the point of having 2, like, giga, like, Zogbots cover it, like, on your show? It's like actually the Nick Fuentes, like, parody of, like, Dave Rubin, where it's like, hi, I'm Dave Rubin. Welcome to the Gay and Jewish Show. Well, the only thing we're allowed to disagree on is economics, and don't talk about Jews. Like, it's like that. It's just that. But they're doing it unironically every week.
Once a week, sometimes twice a week. We are still kind of figuring out exactly what to call our segment, but we've been having on guests to not necessarily debate, but kind of have discussions on different topics of interest, whether that's sort of current events or like an interesting tweet that an interesting person sent out.
Bro,
We bring them on to kind of flesh
cut
out
it
that idea
out.
or what they're thinking about. The origin of this show idea, the trial of Tollybots, came from Wick's Discord. So Wick's audience has gotten to know me now for, I guess, a couple of months here. And many of them were surprised to find out that I had voted for Trump in 2024. And they wanted to chat about it. Most of them were like, oh, that's so surprising because I really like you. So I was expecting to walk into a bit of a skeptical hug box, you know, people who think I'm a good person, but they just want to figure out how I could have made this mistake. But I'm instead walking into a room of people who don't really know me at all. However, I think this will be fun. I am a viewer of Live and Learn. I watch Hutch and Pisco's streams. Pisco, sorry.
No worries.
Mostly listening to Pisco for the introduction music. It's the best in
Yeah,
town.
fuck yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
actually-
the whole premise of this show, the trial of Tollybots, they are kind of setting it up as...
Hassan has a chess stream. Kuihman has an outdoor weatherproof throw pillow with all the stuffing pulled out stream.
I want to fucking... Dude, fuck you. So the whole setup of this is a trial. The whole point is to question her, to go in to, like, what she thinks and fucking lay into her about it. Like, get her to answer tough questions, right? That's the whole setup. So if they're not doing that, I do kind of get why Wick's so pissed off with them, you know?
Him off camera, by the way, playing
people
playing
don't know
strings,
that.
Live.
Yeah.
Very
100%.
impressive.
Mhm.
Very impressive.
He's a Renaissance man.
Yeah, so basically I was a lifelong liberal turned progressive, turned like radical progressive. And I ended up voting for Trump in 2024. I'm not a Republican. I registered, I guess, the beginning of 2024 as an independent. That was my first like official step away from the Democratic Party. I was calling myself a disaffected liberal for a while, and I think that's kind of a good way to encapsulate how I felt. But I see myself as basically having fallen in the center. When I talk to people on the left, they tell me that I'm...
Bro, I'm getting totally...
There are some real gems in this convo, but they're really spread out sadly.
Bro-
W. Pisco and Econoboi for not putting up with her BS. She's highly regarded.
She is, yeah, I've heard it before. Thank you for the £5. Huge appreciated. I'm getting raped in chat. I go and look at Spicy Chat. I'm seeing funny shit there. I'm seeing Kelly in Spicy Chat saying, I'm an asexual autist with a sewed shut pussy. What more do you want from me, you freak? And then I look in chat, and I'm getting... you totally look like the guy who didn't fuck around about Childish Gambino in 2014, which is just like such a scathing read. It's just like, why are you doing this? It's like, why? And I can't look anywhere. It's just like anywhere I look at something, it's gonna completely distract me. I have to just focus on the video, I think. Where it's just
right wing, and when I talk to people on the right, they tell me that I'm a shit lib. So I don't know. I'm politically homeless. I'm not MAGA. I'm not a Trump supporter. So this is maybe not going to be as fun of an inquisition as you guys would have liked, but I'm open to answer any questions. I'm sure there's lots of things that I haven't thought about, and you guys can call me out on all of that. But I hope this will be a pleasant conversation, at least at some point, because I do like all of you. And at the very least, while I don't think you need to be pining for my vote in any way, you guys are all committed to Democrats succeeding, maybe so that especially that Trump will fail. And so at least maybe I can impart to you one example of someone who was pushed away from the party for various reasons, because that will matter in winning the upcoming elections.
Well, if I may, just real quick, kind of to almost piggyback on that, one of the things that I want to do with my show and with my advocacy and with my politicking is find people who we lost and who are winnable again, who we can bring back.
Thank you for the Ford energy stock. Thank you.
I think she's someone that has real issues, right, that deserve to be heard. And I think she's winnable back. Like, we can get her back, and people like her back. She's representative in my mind of a class of people that if we take the right steps, we can get them back. And we need to win, because look at what Trump's doing, right? He's gutted USA.
Should I probably move my
millions
camera
of people,
as well?
right?
Probably
Millions
the wrong
of deaths
spot here,
because
aren't
of that. We're looking at an attack on the First Amendment greater than anything we've seen in a generation. We're looking at this god-awful, big, beautiful bill that's going to just gut Medicaid and a lot of harm. So we have to win. And to do that, we have to win people back. People that have, for whatever reason, switched from Biden to Trump. We have to figure out why they did that. We have to hear them out, and we have to see which ones we can win back. And I think Tali's a good example. So that's why I'm advocating for her. So yeah,
I want to piggyback on that too. I think like Whick represents one kind of viewpoint within the left of like, who should we be trying to win? Where should the focus of the coalition
You're
be?
still tagging me,
and
spicy. Cut it out.
Not
Go
to
on.
burst Whick's bubble, because he's my buddy and my co-host, but I think it would be a fair conclusion for all of you to conclude that you shouldn't spend time winning me back. I think what I've come to realize is while I'm dispositionally liberal, you are the type of people I'd rather be hanging out with. I feel like there are some fundamental beliefs that like the left can't get past with me, or I can't necessarily get past with the left. So it'd be interesting if we get to have some of these conversations, but yeah, I mean,
I don't know how much I want to watch of the context. The thing is, it is like, I'm pretty sure it is all pretty spread out. So I might just get, like, maybe even on 2x, like, just the summary of where she's at the start here, then skip, like, 20 minutes or something. I don't want to be like
I said in the conversation that I had with, when Hutch was on Wick's panel, that I'm a winnable voter, and I do view myself that way, especially because, in many ways, Trump was sort of a protest vote for me. And I could see myself voting left, even if just to try to swing the pendulum back in a similar vein of what I did in 2024. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a divide about strategy among the left, and so I don't know that going for people like me is the best move for the Democratic Party, but I'm concerned with like broader cultural trends, and so I see the sort of like fringe horseshoe people that are coalescing on a bunch of these like foreign policy things and sort of populist things as more.
Did you watch 30 minutes from the beginning, QQ, or did you watch like 30 minutes
like suddenly see myself as like an establishment cuck? So I want the moderates and the sane people of both sides to come out on top, but I don't think those people are going to actually work together. I think those people represent the Democrats and the Republicans in ways that the fringes on the left and the right, their votes are kind of more up for grabs. So
okay, so you get the idea. Basically, she doesn't like all the lefty extremists that have totally taken over Democrats. Okay? So basically, she's living in a delusional fantasy world.
Yeah, Dave Smith, I see as like my polar opposite politically, and polar opposite of, yeah. Dave Smith represents a movement that I'm concerned about. Not just his movement. There are several movements that I'm concerned about across the right and the left. But no, so honestly, a lot of the sort of influencer people that I follow didn't vote for Trump. So some of them basically, they were also disaffected with the left, and I know some of them did. I know some of them held their nose voting for Kamala. That's how they felt about it, in the same way that I sort of held my nose voting for Trump the person, because he's someone that I mean, really detested for a long time. I was also really desensitized to all of the messaging about Trump.
What do you mean by that?
I guess all of the media
Trump's
that I
Nazi,
consumed,
Trump to this, Trump to that. Is that what you
Sure, right. Starting from his first term, and then leading up into the 2024 election, and just like this is democracy is on the line, basically, and Trump is Hitler, and these things I think desensitized a lot of people.
I was
to be
going to
honest.
ask, just I was saying, who in the influencer class, excluding your family and friends. I'm going to ask you about your friends and family. I remember back in 2015, 2016, I was writing some articles basically saying that, because there are a bunch of people, I don't know if you remember, like criticizing people who wore sombreros, who weren't Hispanic, people who were like talking about costumes and stuff. Anyway, I was like writing articles and saying like, hey, we should like do free speech, and it should be like not this racial thing. And I was kind of against that identity politics. I remember very vividly. Oh, thank you. Like people in my orbit who I consider my friends, like I was losing a couple friends. They're like, you're Uncle Jose, like, because I'm Hispanic, and like so why are you doing this? Why are you siding with these people? People call me contrarian sometimes. But anyway, my point is, did you lose any friendships? People around you? Do you recall moments like of your feeling ostracized or things like that?
You mean after voting for Trump, or?
No. Like in this lead, because you're describing a kind of like an imprecise moment. It's not like really policy based or like a specific policy. And you're literally saying it's vibes based. And you're bringing up multiple times like the people in my orbit, the circles I was in, the places where I was protesting. I was hearing things I didn't like. So I'm asking you about that. Like, was there a feeling of ostracization that, like, from personal dynamics, personal relations, people you work with, people that you see?
Dude, this is just okay. Just constantly off topic, but dude, this is just like retarded. This is a short. You are mentally disabled. I'm diagnosing you. You're mentally disabled for making this. Actually, you're obsessed, and you're weird, and you're unhinged, and you're mentally disabled, and you're gay. Actually, and you're gay too for making this. Okay.
Yes, certainly. And again, most of that happened up front, and before I, like, at least a year, probably 2 years before I was really done. 2 years. Maybe closer to 3 years before I was really done with the left. So yes, I lost. None of them were like close best friends, thankfully.
Very snark brain. Very snark brain.
Well, first of all, I grew up with a lot of Jews. Okay, so most of the people that I grew up, I'm from New York. Most of the people that I grew up with were the same liberal Zionists, basically, that I was. But I lost all of my activist friends, and that's like a silly term, but this was real life, right? This wasn't just like internet activism.
What did you guys fight about? What happened? Like, why'd you have a falling out with them?
She was a Zionist.
Yeah, I was a Zionist. I wouldn't like
talk about that. Was that like?
Wait, you should define what Zionist means, because some people say it means something. Like, what do you mean when you say that term? Sorry, Pisco, I just wanted to.
That I believe that Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish state.
Okay. And was this something that that you guys were talking about a lot, or something that it was just
no? So there was a. It's silly to call it a war now in hindsight compared to what's going on right now in Gaza, but there was a small war. There was an exchange of fire. If you remember the word like Sheikh Jarrah and all that stuff was going on, and there were a bunch of missiles that were launched into Israel, and then a bombing campaign for several weeks in Gaza. And the groups that I was part of just reacted to this. Like there were marches that were taking place in my city, from my city to Gaza, from here to Al-Aqsa, the march to end colonization. And so I didn't pretend I wasn't a Zionist. I didn't, and people already knew this. And at this point in time, I already knew that there was an issue with being a Zionist on the left in my progressive circles, but it was something that I mostly ignored. I didn't talk about that much. And I just felt confident that like, this wouldn't be some determining factor, that this wasn't going to end up being some litmus test that suddenly, like, if nothing else changes about you, that's it. Yeah.
Do you think that, I feel like I'm connecting some dots here, but if you're hanging out with activists, that's already a group that is going to skew probably well to the left of the median Democratic voter. Like the median Democratic voter does not want Israel to not exist, but maybe the median activist in your circles absolutely did. Mm-hmm. Do you think that maybe you started to conflate your activist friends with like the Democratic Party broadly?
Okay, this is like, I hear you, and like very boring conversation here. You get in the sense, she's saying retarded shit, but it doesn't seem like we're really going in there that hard. Let's skip through.
A lot of the things that the administration is doing. But again, just like I was seeping up the culture of the left, right? The social cultural influences of the left. I'm really concerned about those on the right now.
Right? Is that correct, Tali? That it would be the people who are in the party, the influencers within the party, not so much the politicians within each party, right? So not so much Chuck Schumer or Biden or any of those people, but it's the people who like learn, right? For example, people who are the Kyle Kalinskis, right? The all the other like culture around it. And say,
wait, skip past Whick Spurg out. Wait, yeah, the Spurg out back here. For real?
There's such moral culpability.
Do you think I actually mean what I'm saying?
Okay, wait.
My point, you jumped in. Now,
is it around here, yeah?
Or predictions of death is really disconnected from my real life.
Probably, I'm granting you probably didn't have a big impact on the
There's one at the end as well.
I'm granting you that. None of us did, right? But just be like, if you look in your heart, do you feel like...
Is it around here, yeah? Does this seem right? Does it seem right? Is it about the right spot?
Regret that you voted for him.
Can I maybe...
I don't know. I'm not, hold on. Let me just... I'm not trying to be difficult. I don't want to lie and just be like, yes, I regret it so much. So like, Richard Hanane...
Yeah, like, wait, it's got to be somewhere right there, okay.
It is precisely because of his personality defects and deficits that we are in this situation, and he is influenced by more philosophically ingrained, smarter...
It's around here somewhere, okay, yeah. So they're going to start talking about whether she regrets voting for Trump or not, okay.
Fascists and authoritarians, like again Stephen Miller's, for example. I think that there is this reflex among Trump voters, and you seem to imply it there, maybe you don't believe it, to absolve Trump of this, but this would not work without him. He is the primary cause of it, and this is a very authoritarian second administration so far. Quite frankly, not just for the reasons Pisco provided, but that Whick did at the beginning during his intro, talking about the First Amendment violations that we've never seen from the Democratic Party or anything else.
Yeah, hey, I mean, so if we want to talk about transformational texts and things that I read along my journey, The Coddling of the American Mind by Jonathan Haidt and Greg Lukianoff was extremely impactful for me, and really reflective of what I see as sort of real issues in our culture. And that's why it's like easy to say, oh, vibes and like minimize it. But when we're talking about the coddling
of I didn't notice that. Whick, Lord of Whick TV.
The American Mind, and the way that this is influencing people's mental health, and how that's
influencing
physical health.
Also,
and all these things I see as interconnected things that I am really concerned about, basically.
You say vibes, right? So we're not dismissing vibes. Yeah, you say vibes.
I'm going to rage.
No, right. I say vibes, but that's where I was about to get into a tangent, and Whick cut me off, which is fair enough. But I say vibes in the way that like there are some kind of like schizo people on YouTube who talk about vibes, and it's not just like they're talking about a different type of analysis, cultural analysis. It's not just like, this is how I feel today and I didn't eat breakfast. So and I feel like that's sometimes the way that you guys talk about it, and that's fine. And some people I guess probably do vote that way, but I am talking a little like yeah.
And has the culture gotten better? I mean, like, so you say, you're looking at a different mode of analysis. I feel like the culture's gotten worse. So to get Hutch's question, do you regret your vote?
I'm not happy with the way things are going. It seems I have a few things to say about regret. Number one, my vote didn't elect Trump.
Yeah, I know, but what I mean to say, like, you can still feel a sense of personal responsibility in that, even if you acknowledge the reality, which is that there's no causal link between your vote and the outcomes. You know, you could have not gone.
Yeah, it's not outcome determinative.
But people still feel guilty about things because it's a signaling and internally. I mean, that's presumably the reason you went to vote in the first place, right? Your protest vote is just as unlikely to affect the outcome as any other vote. You know, a vote in and of itself is very unlikely to. But you voted anyway. You voted anyway because you find some value there.
Yeah, they're not explaining this very well. Obviously, there is a causal link between your vote and who gets elected. Obviously, that's the point of voting, right? There is a causal link there, but it's not determinative. It's not the be all and end all. Whether you vote or not is the be all and end all. But voting is basically like the only way. Like that is the most firm material way that you could have an impact on politics. It's like that's where your responsibility in politics sort of starts, right? Is voting. So if you've made the wrong choice there, I think it would be reasonable that you say, "Oh, I regret making that choice. I regret that vote," right? Because you have contributed to that outcome.
Mechanism or whatever you want to define it for yourself, and on that basis, do you regret it?
Maybe kind of like I think
Hi Kuihman shut. Okay, dude.
Shoot, I had something that I was gonna. Oh, so someone. I'm assuming it's a.
Yeah. So okay, the first Whick Spurg out is apparently about 15 minutes after this. So we'll watch the conversation that leads into it, then watch the goodbye as well. Thank you for the 20 Canadian for the shirt fund. I so huge appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Audience member of one of yours, but was like asking me questions about this last night on Twitter, and I don't know how this. I realize this might not be relevant to you, but it is sort of to me. Is like this was actually the first election that I was not proselytizing, or I was not telling people go out and vote for my guy. Make sure you vote. You know, I wasn't encouraging people to vote for Trump. It was something that I kept to myself, except for on Twitter, basically. You know, and like Twitter is really disconnected from my real life.
Probably, I'm granting you probably didn't have a big impact on the election. I'm granting you that. None of us did, right? But just be like, if you look in your heart, do you feel like that you regret that you voted for him?
Can I maybe?
I don't know, and I'm not. Hold on, let me just. I'm not trying to be difficult. I don't want to lie and just be like, yes, I regret it so much. So like,
sure, don't lie,
Richard Hanania has written about he really regrets his vote, and I relate to a lot of the stuff he's saying. And I'm like, Richard Hanania is one of the people that I really like ideologically. Him, Brad Palumbo,
the ethno-nationalist.
I relate to the things that he's saying. Like, I don't feel overcome with regret. Like, again, I could give an answer that would make me like more socially desirable in this setting.
No, yeah,
I know you're not. I know you're not.
To be fair, I don't think Hanani is like an open ethno-nationalist right now. He just used to write under a pen name, or he wrote a bunch of eugenic shit or something. I don't know
what's going on, but like, I don't know how meaningful regret is.
Let's do Hutch, then Econoboi, then Whick.
I want to put my big boy hat on for a minute here.
Big boy hat.
There was an estimate that came out today that said that 14 million people across the world are going to die by 2030 because of these USAID cuts. The Republicans are on the precipice of signing a bill into law that could kick 17 million people off of Medicaid, over a quarter of Medicaid recipients. These are poor families. These are children that are going to be kicked off of this. And I'm not trying to moralize right now, but you said something before that stuck with me. It's one of the things that triggers me. You said that you felt like not much meaningfully changes between a Democratic president switch to a Republican, back and forth, back and forth. I don't know how you could possibly reach that conclusion faced with those kind of staggering numbers.
So those are bad things.
No, those are catastrophic things.
Those are bad things. What she means is, it doesn't change my life. It doesn't change my life. I'm a middle-class white woman. It doesn't change my life. That's what she means. That's what she means.
14 million dead? Those are catastrophic.
So, Hutch, I agree with you, but I'm very hesitant about predictive numbers like this because we just don't know. And
sorry, as white as any American.
Even just in this past, like in the Gaza war, of estimations of like a certain date and a certain time that we're going to reach a certain threshold of starvation or of famine or predictions of deaths that don't necessarily come true. There could be other things. Maybe basically what I'm saying is if that is the outcome, yes, that is horrific, absolutely horrific, bad.
But can we also, just to clarify to Hutch's point, he's saying it's horrific, but it is a direct consequence. That is 100% the fault of Trump and the Republican Party. not the Democrats. His point is, so I take your skepticism notwithstanding, let's assume the figures he cited are true or likely to be true. That's not Joe Biden. That's not woke activists on Twitter. That's
not true. That's
Donald Trump and the Republican Party, and that is a meaningful difference between the two parties and the two administrations. And can you address that? He's not asking you. Of course, you find it horrific, but are you now 6 months in recognizing, oh shit, there are
getting raped over this between
a Donald Trump in power versus a Democrat in power?
You were speaking to like your concerns with the fringes on the right, and Pisco was right that one through line was this like staunch opposition to Israel. Another through line is nationalism, hyper nationalism. These people are isolationists, they're nationalists, which means you are patriotic to the point where it is detrimental to the world around you. This is like the USAID cuts. That is you're speaking sort of in abstract about your concerns about the fringes. This is
no, you're absolutely right. That type of anti-interventionism
of nationalism. Yeah. So that's why I think it's hard for us, or hard for me, I would speak for myself, to reconcile.
No, I hear you. I hear you, and that's compelling. And again, I just like we're all
that was a good point from Hutch.
This conversation, but like I sincerely.
I'll give Hutch his wins. I hate Hutch. Think he's a total loser. But I'll give him his wins when he gets them. I don't think this woman is like... I mean, she was kind of brought on to be a punching bag. So, I mean, maybe it's not clearing the highest bar in the world. But that was a decent point.
Econoboi and Josiah, I really only know you guys for when you chime in on on Wick's channel and when I watch this show. But like, Pisco and Hutch, I watch your streams. I find value in what you have to say. I agree. That's bad. And actually, I think that connection that you just made sort of explicit, the sort of anti-interventionist overlap there, that's a good point. That is compelling to me. That's a direction that I am concerned with. Yes.
So I think, so just to jump in here, I think, well, where to start? Okay, so I think that something that you said that I really disagree with. Obviously, I think most people, when they vote, they don't take it to be a very, you could say, moral decision, right? They just kind of vote, like you said, based on vibes, like whoever they kind of intuit would be better for society. Some people have very more, evangelical Christians, I'm sure, have very deep-seated conservative religious beliefs or something like that, right? But, at the end of the day, you can do immoral things without realizing it. You can do moral things without realizing it. The actions that we take are always, in some sense, guided by our senses of morality. You make the point of, well, this is kind of hiding, I think, behind the consequences of Trump's administration. Oh, well, my vote just didn't make a difference. It's like, okay, well, I don't think that's how morality works, right? Like if a bunch of people are like throwing stones at, if there's a bunch of people are stoning someone to death for some inconceivable reason, and I pick up a stone and just like throw it in the general direction, I don't think that I would say like, well, I was just one of the people who threw a stone. I didn't, it's like, come on, guys. Like, did I really do anything that bad? Like, no, like it's fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the way that I would view that. And
it's not even as compelling as I was just following orders, It's like not even that compelling. At least in that case, there's like a top-down hierarchy that's instructing you to do something. Here, you're just saying basically, yeah, I just kind of felt that way, and I don't feel I need to analyze my actions in any way. Yeah, I just kind of felt like doing this thing. I'm never going to analyze my actions. It's like retarded.
Isn't quite as direct as throwing a stone at someone. To Hutch's point, millions of people are going to, have limited access or lose their access to health insurance. Millions of people are going to die. I mean, like, this isn't like you said, oh, these projections, like there's vaccine shipments that go to these countries that save lives. We know vaccines work. Those shipments aren't going
that are
anywhere,
on a tight schedule.
Right?
Like some of these, like these medicinal regimens, like they require like specific times and dates, and they're just sitting there collecting dust.
Millions of dollars worth of food spoiling it.
The last thing I was just going to say, one more thing, was I really also disagree with this general method of voting. Like you said, well, I might vote for the Democrats based on how extreme some of the elements on the right are. Okay. I think you should vote based on the actually existing governments and politicians of either party, right? I mean, I agree. Like when I see some leftist protests, I'm like, that is outside of my mind right there. Like, I don't know if I'd agree with everything that every leftist protester does. And similarly, like when I say Stephen Miller's a Nazi, it's because I really do think that he is, right? But if we were to compare those two groups, right? We've got Stephen Miller, who he liked a white nationalist book where the plot of the book was an Indian immigrant raping a white woman, and he shared a bunch of websites on white nationalist websites, and he's a believer in white genocide theory, and he thinks that denationalization for people with immigrant backgrounds makes sense, even people who came here legally. Whether you call that a Nazi or not,
His
don't
uncle called him a
find
Nazi, for the record.
Yeah. Well, Jews can't be Nazis apparently, right? Even though they fucking line by line, besides the
dude,
anti-Semitism,
Nazism's central like dogma is anti-Semitism,
it's
and
just-
so it's
I don't-
ridiculous. But go
I
ahead.
don't think the central dogma to Nazism is like
It
just
absolutely
anti-Semitism.
is. It's the organizing principle of Nazism.
Pisco.
just call 'em evil.
The Nazis didn't kill only Jews. They had
I
a
didn't
whole
say that. I
fucking
didn't say that.
bigoted
I said the
ideology,
organizing
right?
principle of Nazism is anti-Semitism.
Whatever,
It is
Pisco, I
central to
totally
their ideology.
This is why I hate
totally
using
disagree
the word
with
Nazi, even if it
Okay,
applies, is
Whick,
because we start
you
debating
guys
what
are the ones
I'm with
describing
Econoboi
what's
and
happening.
I wouldn't jump in if
Nazi.
you just
Nazi.
don't talk shit. Don't do your little snipes.
Yeah. My little snipes. What are you talking about? You're the one that brought
Okay,
it up,
just-
Pisco. Okay, I made my point. You jump in. Now, the point that I was trying to make was that I don't find a serious difference in. Oh, I do find. I'm sorry, a serious difference in a guy like Trump who puts a guy like Stephen Miller in one of the highest positions in our government, and like the actually existing administration of Democrats, where like, yeah, I guess some of them believe in equity a little too hard, and some of them have
So
like
again, it's not that-
pro-Palestinian. It
So
just
it's
seems
not
like the
about
way we
believing
should
in
vote is the
equity.
government's. Yeah.
I think that's fair, and that's good, and I like agree with you. That's like very logical. That's very sound. That's not how everyone votes, for better or for worse. I can
said that,
take
yeah.
I can take on board what you're saying. You said a lot of things, and I had like responses that came
Okay.
up in my mind.
Of course, yeah.
I'm here.
Now I'm having trouble tracking all of them, but
I talked
so
about there were
one
two main
thing-
points. One was the morality of your vote and the throwing a stone at someone. The other one was I think that the way we should vote is like the actually governing coalition of these parties, not necessarily in reaction to the fringes of either movement.
Sure. So with regard to the morality,
Okay, that seems pretty bulletproof to me personally. To me personally, that seems pretty, like, how can you really argue with that? Like, yes, obviously, you should have some moral, you have some moral responsibility when you vote. Yes. You are doing something that has an impact, theoretically. So you should feel some responsibility. Yes. Okay. And what's the other one? You should select which party you vote for according to who's in control of the party, not according to which extremists you find the most annoying.
the vote, like I understand what you're saying, and I hear you. And like, if there are, maybe it's a stronger point. Maybe you could call it negligence. Maybe it's a stronger case if you're talking about someone who's cheering on some of the things that are happening right now.
I'll be on camera in a second.
The way that I
okay?
sort of see it is like, I voted in an election that I knew there was a very slim
I guess I'll
chance
throw up the
that my
cookie for a
vote
second.
would matter. And when I was far on the left, I was for like abolishing the electoral college. Okay, so this is a frustration that I've had for a long time as someone who has always lived in very blue states, right? I mean, I voted blue all the time.
Would you have voted Trump if you lived in Pennsylvania?
It would have been a no. I don't think so. It would have been a much harder call for me. I wouldn't have voted Kamala again. I was decided at that point that I wasn't voting for the left, but that would have been a very different calculation that I would have had to do. I think
Why?
what I
Because like your vote
would
is just
matter.
as no.
Yeah, because it would matter more.
Your vote is a lot, just as unlikely. It's 0.001% to be the deciding vote in a Pennsylvania general election than
Okay,
it
in
is
Florida
any
in
other place.
2000, the vote was decided by less than 500 people. So after
would-
that, right, in Pennsylvania, it was 20,000 votes. Like the level of possibility is orders of magnitude greater if you live in a swing state than if you live in a
It is not meaningfully
California
different.
or a blue state, right? It just is.
No, it is not meaningfully different at all. The likelihood that a single vote is going to be. I'm not insane.
You're just wrong then.
I'm not wrong. The
You are.
likelihood
Damn,
that you're.
Pisco taking L's.
I am not wrong.
Do you
The
think that a
likelihood-
voter
Oh my
in
God.
California has as
Okay. The point Pisco is making is it is just as unlikely to be outcome determinative, as in your one vote will never make a difference. So obviously you can always rationalize away your one vote. Right? That's the point he's making, I think. You can always rationalize away the significance of your one vote.
much chance to influence the election as a voter in Pennsylvania?
Effectively, yes.
Okay,
It's both. It's both. 99.99. If you want to look at the actual, why are you fucking shaking your head? There's plenty of actual articles and
this
has
been a clarion call on the left for a long time, right? The frustration that the left is overwhelmingly able to have these popular vote victories and then lose in the electoral college, and there has been a strong disenfranchisement of voters on the left for a long time. I hear what you're saying, like you're making a point about statistical analysis that any one individual person has the same likelihood of like being.
But you agree with that,
deciding
don't
vote.
you? You do agree with that?
Sure. Yes. Yes.
Right. So
I guess,
my question is, given the high levels of the fact that you would affect the outcome is going to be completely astronomical chance in both cases. Why would it change? Why would you be more like unsure about the Pennsylvania one? Personally, it shouldn't matter, right? You're going to punish the Democratic Party in one versus the other, and it's very unlikely to affect the outcome in both cases, Pennsylvania or New York.
Sure. Again, to me, it feels like it feels like it'd be a different calculation for me. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to give you a better answer. Wick seems to understand what I'm saying. I think there's a reason that we
Translate.
It's so embarrassing. Okay, this is just embarrassing. Pisco's point is totally reasonable. I understand he's used the term not meaningfully different or something, which might trigger some people, because obviously there is a big difference between the statistics, but that's not the point. The point is you can always say, my vote doesn't matter. My vote doesn't matter. Look, they won by 5,000 votes. What would my one vote have done? You can always say this about voting. It's not the point. The point is that you have a responsibility to vote the way that you think will cause the best outcome.
So does Pisco. I mean, why do you like Pisco? Why do you think? Why do you
Average woman answers tough question. Well, I just kind of feel like, okay,
completely astronomical chance in both.
Analysis that any one individual person has the same likelihood of like being.
But you
that
agree with that,
deciding
don't
vote.
you? You do agree with that?
Sure. Yes. Yes.
Right. So
I guess,
my question is, given the high levels of you know, the fact that you would affect the outcome is going to be completely astronomical chance in both cases. Why would it change? Why would you be more like unsure about the Pennsylvania one? Personally, it shouldn't matter, right? You're going to punish the Democratic Party and one versus the other, and it's very unlikely to affect the outcome in both cases, Pennsylvania or New York.
Sure. Again, to me, it feels like. It feels like it would be a different calculation for me. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to give you a better answer. Wick seems to understand what I'm saying. I think there's a reason that we.
so does Pisco. I mean, why do you like Pisco? Why do you think Kamala spent so much time in the 7 swing states? Obviously, those votes are going to matter more.
So it matters more in bulk for a person who's running the race. The point is, when you're talking about the personal motivation for someone to vote, right? Someone's individual vote is an individual's vote is incredibly unlikely to affect in a dispositive way the outcome in any election, right? Especially in these presidential elections, you know, when has it ever happened? But also it's just very, very, very low likelihood odds. So why would that change the calculus if you are physically in Pennsylvania, where you have a very astronomically low chances of having a dispositive vote in the outcome, and the same thing in New York, where effectively it's both like zero? Because it feels different. And she answered the question, and I hear her, it feels different. Why does it feel different? Because, and if it has to do with your prior on what you're more likely to affect the outcome on, doesn't that affect your analysis? Like, maybe Trump isn't the better person to win. Like, if part of your analysis that's changing you from definitely vote Trump in one case versus maybe I'm unsure in the other has to do with like the tendency to affect the outcome, or at least the feeling that you might affect the outcome, doesn't that implicitly imply like you have an aversion to this outcome and at least some of your hesitancy in the one?
Implicitly imply. Pisco fucking up some of his vocab here. Pisco not hitting the smooth rhetorical wins here.
I have an aversion to Trump. I always have had an aversion to Trump, and I know that's what complicates
you wouldn't vote for Kamala. You clarified that you wouldn't vote for Kamala, so we're kind of in the same territory regardless.
So to be clear, so I guess like you would take the votes out of it to be like crystal clear on this.
What do you mean? What's the point of this line of reasoning? The premise of the debate, or the premise of the podcast, is the trial of Talibots, where they're interrogating her on why she voted Trump and how she feels about a Trump vote. That's the point of this interrogation. Right?
Regardless of what state you literally or hypothetically resided in or voted in at the time, you preferred Trump winning the election to Kamala Harris. That's fair to say. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was... Right, I hear you, right. That should be like the most obvious question there. Yeah, and you know, like, did I think that would be, like I said before, and it's not a good answer, and that's fine, and I grant that, but like, I was kind of feeling.
It's the same reason everyone votes Trump. I'm pissed off at these fucking libs. I fucking hate these libs, and I hate these Mexicans, and I want my enemies punished. It's that. It's just that Trump is going to hit my enemies really hard, so I'm voting Trump. So when you drill down on anyone's reasoning on this shit, that's what it comes down to.
Like,
so I won't say any. That's totally designed to say anyone. It's not everyone. Obviously, there are some people that have rational self-interest reasons to vote. There are a lot of business owners and shit like that. Well, I don't know so much anymore, but felt like they did. Like First T, who was like a single issue voter who was voting for a single tax break that his business could get. Obviously, there's some people like that, but for a lot of people, for the masses, for the unwashed masses, it is just Trump is going to hit the people I don't like really hard.
Much changes, you know, and I didn't expect all of the things to happen that have been happening. Like when my mom was very worried after the election, and I was saying, you know, like, we got to wait to see for the courts to decide these things, right? And then we have the administration going against the courts. And so these are things that do concern me that I'm not happy with. Again, like,
well, I appreciate you acknowledging that. Here's my question, because you mentioned this earlier.
I feel like that's all I can do. And you can try to bring me back and be like, do I, you know, it's like,
yeah, I got
it. It's really not about.
I want to go, Josiah.
No, yeah, well, actually, no, you go ahead, Whick. You go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, because this is fresh. This conversation for me is frustrating. I would not be shocked if it was more frustrating
I'm not moving that foot
than for poor Tally here. I understand, right? The questions that Hutch and others are asking, like the did you regret the vote? And I think it's fair to ask, right? But this idea that we can guilt people into never voting for the other side again, I don't think it's effective, and I fear that it might be counter-effective when you try to cast this kind of like this.
Okay, what's one belief that I have that implies that I'm not a lib? Name one. Name one belief I have that I've said that does not go liberalism. The Palestine stuff absolutely does go liberalism. Believing that there should be a enforced international world order, rules-based world order, where you have to actually justify the strikes you're doing against your enemies. That is a lib belief. A lefty belief would be believing like multipolarity. So I hate when he stops just to yell, I guess I dude. I'm being yellow jacketed right now. So yeah, I don't think I have any belief that implies I'm not a lib, really. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't think that's true.
Doing that, Wick. This is
14
insane.
million
No one is doing that.
You are absolutely all doing it.
If
you allow me to explain, I will demonstrate it. Like, oh, you voted for Biden. All the blood of the Gazans are on your hands. You were the one who
said that
specifically did that. Hutch with his question and the rest of you
Hutch,
no. Hutch
was, no.
You won't let me finish because you know our right. No. Because you
that was not what happened. This is bullshit.
Trying to say what you're trying to do right now is cast the blame for the
that's not what Hutch was trying to do. No,
I'm sorry. Wait. Why can't you cast it? Wait. You live in a democracy where you have a say over the policy of your country, and if you vote for a set of policies, do you not have some responsibility somewhere along, like, just there's probably some moral responsibility somewhere along the line for the people that vote for something, right? I feel like it's not that crazy to say.
No, that is not at all what Hutch was trying to say. No. So Hutch was listening. So Hutch was listening to Tali, and Tali said, "One thing I'm very concerned about is the kind of nationalism that is embodied by these extremists." Hutch listened to what she said and said,
"Watches Nick Fuentes and retweets gropers. I'm a lib." I just had that conversation with someone, with another content creator, where they were like, "I feel like if you like Nick Fuentes, you can't really be a lib. Wouldn't you be so disgusted by this if you actually believe this stuff?" It's like, no. Why would I be disgusted by it? It's funny.
Here's a way that this manifests, that the nationalism of the extremists, which you attribute to the extremists, is actually, there's maybe more of it in the administration, and it's manifesting in a policy. And in that statement, more contrary to it being like a bad statement or trying to put the blame on Tali, she said that was the most compelling thing that she's heard so far. And she said, I have to think about it. So it's complete bullshit for you to now say, well, something that Tali took to heart out of Hutch listening to Tali is somehow an indication is somehow an indication that Hutch is like
smart.
Trying to berate her.
You're so smart.
Hold on, let me
hold on. No. Pisco, you're so smart. You're so kind. Do you think I actually mean what I'm saying here? Even though those words are what I'm using, you think I'm actually meaning it? How can you tell that I don't mean what I'm saying here?
So, you're full of shit because you're an idiot. You're an idiot.
Wait, okay, here we go. So Pisco is absolutely just grabbing Whick by the fucking scruff of his neck right now. Fucking get this guy, Pisco. Fucking get this guy. Thank God. Oh my God. Here we go.
You're
Burn
accusing.
when someone's
You're
actually being
accusing. Oh
sincere
my
and when
god.
someone's being insincere.
You're accusing Hutch. You're accusing. I'm not talking
not
about.
accusing Hutch, I'm
You're
accusing
accusing
all
Hutch
of
of
you.
trying to
And
guilt
look,
someone.
I
That's
do
not what he
wrong
was
things
doing.
too. This
That's
isn't
not
no
what he was doing.
I can
personal
just
attack.
guys.
I am
gu-
simply
hold-
saying this conversation is
Let me share
frustrating
how I
because
feel.
instead of
speak for
talking about
himself.
like, okay, what can we do, right? Like, how can we figure out what people like Tully and things like that, what their actual
You
problems
accuse
are,
Hutch of
and we can
guilting
figure
people. That's
out
not what he
how to
did.
get
That's
things
bullshit.
working again
That's
for the
bullshit.
Democratic Party. We're going to sit here and have a struggle session, right? Like,
Wait.
you
Okay. It feels like Whick, the way he actually wanted this conversation to go, basically, is for them to say, well, Tali, why did you vote Trump? And then she says, well, I'm just sick of these leftist extremists. And then they say, oh, yeah, we really need to get rid of them. We really need to get rid of that. We need to get rid of Hassan and all these people. They're really evil. But because they haven't said that, because they've instead said, well, why are you allowing these retarded social media extremists to dictate the way you vote, allowing you to, that it's now dictated that you vote for, like, millions of deaths? Like, what? Doesn't that sound kind of fucking insane to you? Doesn't it sound kind of like fucking insane? That's like what they're trying to get to, right? I feel like. But Whick doesn't want them to. Whick wants them to go about the way where it's like, oh, listen, not all lefties are like that, you know? It's not like... That's how Whick wants it to be, I think.
regret your vote. You're a terrible person, Tom.
That's not
No,
what he's
hold on,
doing.
we're just
You're so
establishing a
full of
baseline.
shit.
That's all.
Okay,
I'm
wait,
not-
let me
it wasn't
jump
something-
in.
fuckhead.
Let me
It
jump in.
Let the terrible person
yeah.
talk. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
terrible
fucking with you,
person
Tally. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're both right, Wick and Pisco. Okay, so I do.
Oh, pick a side, you centrist.
felt-
Come on.
Frankly, I know,
Dude.
right? Frankly, I felt moralized too more by Econoboi, and I'll touch on that because that is something that I wanted to address. You
Fair
said a lot of things that again had me think about a lot of things. The 14 million number is not what got me. Connecting it to this isolationism and this idea that this idea that like every dollar that we spend abroad would otherwise be if we just didn't fund this one program in this one country, or if we didn't support
Right,
our
350 million to the NHS, so let's fucking go.
allies who are, you know, at wars of survival.
W isolationist policy. So we're gonna cut all spending to everywhere else, and you're gonna give it back to us, right? Right? Okay.
Then we would all have universal health care and there'd be no homeless people
Smile?
and everyone would
Smile?
have a mansion and all of this stuff. I resent that a lot. That's creeping up a lot on the left. That sort of
100%. No, 100%. But that's not what Hutch did.
No, I agree.
Hutch was-
Hold on. I agree with you. So it was more compelling when we got to that second point,
Right.
when we drew that direct connection. That's more compelling than the numbers, to be honest. And they're like, isn't that horrible? Because like, yes, that is obviously horrible. And it's not something that I wish to defend, you know, because that is bad. I don't want to. And again, I don't think I am responsible for the deaths of those people. Frankly, I'm just gonna be honest about the way that I see
suggesting
it.
that, for the
neither.
record.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
responsible for the deaths. But I think you should own some level of moral responsibility. Like, obviously, when you vote for something, you play a part. To some tiny, tiny extent, you play a part, right? That's obviously true, okay? I don't see how you can really get around that.
But with what you were saying, Econoboi, like just the morality of the vote and stuff, and this is your perspective, and that's fine and that's fair. But like, would you? And I think maybe you would have the same perspective of like someone on the left who was just withholding their vote from Kamala and, you know, voting green or you know, voting something
I would
else.
1,000% for the
Right.
record.
Yeah,
Fuck those.
one could even say, many people on this panel would say, you even have more responsibility when you don't vote. Or if you're like a content creator who doesn't enthusiastically support the Dems hard enough, you even have more responsibility then. You know, if you're like a leftist content creator who doesn't hardcore all the time, 100% of the time, full throat, you know, ride for the Dems and support the Dems the whole way, then you have more responsibility for deaths in Gaza, actually. You have more responsibility for deaths in Gaza.
People, they're just as bad as MAGA. I'm with you
Right,
on that one.
but are
They're
they?
just
Because
as bad as
seems like-
MAGA.
it kind of seems like the way that Econoboi set it up that it wasn't. Like there are like other sort of principled ways to do it. But if your vote goes for Trump,
yeah, obviously.
and I mean,
it's-
fair enough. Trump is different from Jill Stein, but
Well, that's my point, right? Is that
I think
obviously,
maybe no, I totally disagree. No, I was going to say compulsory voting might make it different, but no, it doesn't. No, I don't think it does. You still vote one way or the other. Pretty sure, doesn't Australia have ranked choice too? You got a lot of options, man. You got a lot of options.
you know, we can agree and disagree with like the rationale behind, you know, why somebody votes for somebody or whatnot. I mean, I think that, to be fair, look, I will say that people who didn't go out and vote for Kamala, whether it was, you know, because they wanted to vote for Trump, because of, like you, there was a protest vote for Trump, or because they had these like far left kind of not far left necessarily, but like these very like pro-Palestinian like views, and they were very, very anti the Biden.
Does it necessarily mean you're complicit? No, you could be opposing it for sure, but if you just vote and then you're kind of passive, I feel like all you've done is, I don't know, compulsory voting does kind of throw a spanner in it. I'm not gonna lie. Compulsory voting does make me think about it a little bit differently, I think. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, that's a tricky one. I have to think about that more, I think. I do support compulsory voting as well, to be honest. I think compulsory voting might be based. I do lean towards supporting it. I think making people be invested in that state is probably good. What do you mean by you support it? And I would probably support it as a policy. Like if they said in the UK we are potentially having mandatory voting, I'd probably say yes. I'd go yes, do that. I think. I get like, you know, there's like, it feels about, well, I mean, you can say it's bullshit, but it's probably good that you're forced to. Okay? Like, there's a lot of things that are, you know, you have to do. I think voting should be one of them. You should have to vote. It doesn't matter if they won't be invested, though. If a lot, just because it won't force everyone to suddenly be invested and educated on the topics. I think when you push people to go out and represent their interests en masse, you're more likely to get a result that represents the broad interests of the population, right? The Zog Uniparty machine needs blood to run, force them to engage. Well, I mean, they can abstain, I'm pretty sure. They just have to show up, right? Because they don't check the ballots, they're not going to prosecute if you don't cast a vote. So you can still technically abstain. Yeah, I think you can turn in an empty or spoiled ballot. So I think making people go and go consider representing your interests and doing what will benefit you. You know, that's like basically what the law is. It's go and consider this. Go there and really fucking think about this. One day every 5 years or whatever. Go there and actually have a fucking thought about this. I thought that's not too bad. I think that's fine. I think that would lead to better outcomes. I think. Do you get the media being even more powerful? I don't know. I necessarily buy that. I don't know, man. It also, on the flip side, makes them more morally accountable for the state's decisions if we assume a representative democracy functions as it's intended. Sure. No, I'm totally against like IQ testing for voting or anything like that. I would only be in favor of things to make people vote more. I think trying to make people vote less is slippery path to go down. But the moment you start justifying like IQ tests or basic reasoning tests, it's like why don't we just start fucking dude, why don't we just go full eugenics at that point? Fuck it, man. Like, what are we even doing? We're just gonna
administration just generally. Yeah, I would say of course there's moral culpability there. I mean, for goodness sake, like I think there's such moral culpability. I'll give an example. I was listening, I don't even know why my wife was listening to this. We were in a car ride and she was listening to a radio show from Dearborn, and they just happened to be doing a segment on following up with people who didn't vote for Kamala, right? So people who voted for Trump, people who voted for the Green Party, people who just didn't vote. And obviously Dearborn's a super Muslim, most Muslim city in the country. At least it's the...
Look, I've listened, Nighthawk. Here's the thing, is oftentimes, I just don't put that much stock in it, okay? I think people on a whole, okay, a country, a collective, you know, will, on average, represent their own interests, if you know what I mean. Whether you're picking smart people or dumb people. My thought is, my belief is that if you made a whole country vote, if everyone seriously went and considered what their options were and what was best for them, you would get the best result. People are generally rational, sometimes misinformed, sometimes stupid, but generally rational and aiming to look for the best outcome. So with enough people, you should always come to that, I feel. You know? I'll take Fuentes has a better take on this. What? Don't let blacks...
The biggest, most Muslim city. And one thing that I thought was interesting was that the people who voted not for Kamala, right? The people who just didn't vote at all, they were willing to give interviews and they were willing to say, you know, look, this is why I didn't vote. And most of them seemed decently regretful about it, that, you know, look, honestly, I didn't think that Trump would be so bad, especially even on the issue of Israel-Palestine, to the extent that they care about it. But the ones who voted for Trump were...
Most people are dumb NPCs, and the people who aren't zombies need to trick them to vote their way. There is a lot of... There's a bit of truth in that. There's a bit of truth in that, you know. There is a bit of truth in that. But I think when you have like a maximum participation, I feel like the biggest thing that fucks elections from my perspective is like the people tricking people motivates them a lot more. When someone is like totally tricked into being very passionate about something, like way more passionate than you should ever be about something. Like, let's say Muslim immigrants, right? Let's say they're really passionate about Muslim immigrants, and they think they're every white kid is in danger of being raped by Muslims, and they've been completely tricked into that full, like, you know, full blown. They're on the constant panic. Okay, they're looking around every corner. They're way more motivated to vote. So more of those people go out and vote. They disproportionately go out and vote. If everyone is forced to vote, then even the people who maybe aren't that motivated are showing up, and you get a bit of a more rational, you know, outcome. I think that's how I feel about it. Again, this is like pure vibes. This is vibes electoralism analysis right now, okay? Pure vibes, no data. We're just eyeing it, okay?
Were not even willing to give an interview, right? They were not even willing to show themselves in public, right? Yeah. Well, but I'm saying, like, they voted for Trump for radically different reasons than I think that you did, and that's fine, obviously. But yeah, I would say that there's always a moral angle to how you vote and how you should feel about voting, right? That I do think that and it should be as conscious as possible. Most people don't, but I think that if you're gonna deconstruct why you vote, you should certainly have deeply held moral reasons as to why you vote, right? Oh, I think poverty is a big deal. Well, why is that? And then think about which side is actually better or worse on those issues. Of course, there's a moral axis to this. And I mean, yeah, like, I do think that to the extent that Trump is terrible, and to the extent that you thought that voting for Trump was like a good thing to do as a means to protest the Democrats, I really don't think that was the right decision, right? Both morally and practically. That I don't think, to the extent that
doesn't surprise me.
Well, but I don't think that the Democrats, I guess we haven't really gotten into what you talked about it, but I didn't really understand the answer of, like, what lesson the Democrats should learn from
Trump
this.
didn't win because Kamala is gay and a cop. Okay, I think Kamala honestly could have had, like, an okay chance of winning if it weren't for the fact that she came in, like, giga late after Biden had already totally fucked it.
I just don't really know that this is a long-term beneficial thing to do, to, like, protest vote for Trump. And I think the evidence is mounting that that's the case, right? It was terrible to
yeah.
Yeah, and Tally, if you can respond to that, then I've got something to say to hopefully, like, circle this particular square. Go
Sure,
ahead.
that's fair, and I agree. It's obviously not like a long-term strategy. And again, like, I keep trying to, unfortunately, burst Wick's balloon, which is like, well, I guess the lessons that I want the left to take away from somebody like me is, like, there are people who want the same sort of, like, social end.
Kamala was less popular than Hillary. That doesn't matter. Hillary won the popular vote, right? It was about vote distribution. So again, you're looking at, like, Like these things, it's like you say, oh, they're less popular, but that doesn't mean that's not necessarily that they're gonna win in those particular states, right? It's more focused, like the margins that Kamala lost by in swing states were not that crazy as far as I'm aware. It was like pretty close.
Who are really resentful of the grievance framing of everything, that the constant degradation of white people. And I say this as someone who, like, I don't see myself like, I recognize that I'm white, but like, I don't even put myself in that group necessarily. And I used to make lots of white jokes and stuff like that. Like, I think this is toxic to our culture. I think it's like bad for the mental health of individuals who are really eating this stuff up. And I think it's bad for our society at large. And I know that's like a big, like, grand dramatic statement.
But how do you tell? Here's an example. How do you weigh that against the degradation of so many different groups from people on the right? This is one of the issues that I seem to have foundationally with people who say that this is at least one of the predominant reasons why they are, rejecting the Democrats and not voting for the Democrats. Is it's like, okay, I like this colorblind approach, right? And I don't necessarily agree with that approach, but I don't think it's the most offensive thing on the planet. But again, when we compare Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump, I'm sundowning, obviously. But
you can't be the nominee next year.
Right. When we compare those two, one of these people had a message of, joy and being uplifting, and Donald Trump was on stage saying
very contrived
joy.
Yeah. I would say.
Well, whatever, Tally. The point is that Trump had a message. He literally said that Haitian immigrants were eating dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio. And if I had to compare, those
we don't
two
know that they
people,
weren't.
and if I had to compare those two,
Are you
Does
talking?
Whick spaz out anymore here?
I thought
No, I think he
about
shuts up for a while.
And when dude
Okay.
left actually believes this.
Yes.
Like, whenever
list.
programs people rely on.
Okay, we're going to skip towards the end now. Also, guys, now is a great time to remind you. 531 people here, 125 likes on the stream. So almost 400 people, man. Please move the cursor, thumbs up, and clicking on pressing the thumbs up on the mobile device. That'd be hugely appreciated. If you want to take your support one step further, you can donate directly through the stream elements link in the pin chat message. You can also buy a membership to the channel, gift a membership to the channel, gift a whole bunch of memberships running without the chat, buy a super chat, which will highlight a message and read it out on TTS, buy a super sticker, which is a YouTube image or GIF. They'll be highlighted in chat. I'll describe it to you. You can go to discord.gg/Kuihman, twitter.com/Kuihman, or reddit.com/r/Kuihman. Also, guys, huge push right now for active community engagement. Run a Twitter account, run a Reddit account, run a Discord account. Always be clipping. There's an ABC's guide on the subreddit. And post like hell, okay? I know you'll post peacefully. Okay. Thank you. Let's get into this now.
Signal to the Democrats that people are not moving left, but are in fact moving right, and that would encourage moderation. But you're right, that's not what's happening. But then I don't know what to do, because I
Advocate.
Okay, somewhere, I think Wick's off speaking again here.
I warned.
happy with the direction that the party was going into. So
Voted for the woman. Voted for the black, amazing, joyful woman. That's what you should have done.
Go ahead.
I
Wick.
understand that's
Frankly,
what
yes. Frankly, yes.
I
you should
obviously
have.
get that's what you guys believe. Yeah,
frankly,
I obviously understand that.
I do think that, again, given
Wick.
that you are worried about this extremism on the fringes, I warn the right all the time, right? That if you are going to go extreme, the left is going to counter you by going more extreme, right? So beware what you do. I told this to the left as well. Hey, if you keep going extreme, the right's going to counter you. So if you want a more moderate politic, vote for moderate candidates. That's the only way to turn down the temperature. The only way. If people keep going to the radical extreme side because they have to counter the other side, it's going to create, again, a reciprocal radicalization effect, right? This is very studied, right? This is a common thing. Yeah. We see this all the time across all sorts of issues, right? So my worry here, my concern is that we are going to keep, every side is going to keep weaponizing its crazies to fight the other. We're going to see each other as enemies. So Tali, my advocacy to you is that the less extreme candidates going forward in the midterms coming up, because we can't change your vote. Like, we can't actually go back in time. There is no button we can press to
that's
change your
true.
vote. But what we can do is talk to you about what's coming up in the midterms, right? The candidates are going to be on the ballot in the Senate and in the Congress, and how we can use those seats to moderate and act as a block.
Okay, this is terrible. Don't care, Wick. Give it a rest. Stop screaming.
Home to me.
Do it because you did the first invitation.
My attitude.
Something that I think is really and can be kind of overwhelming.
You get to close
Does
this
Hutch
out.
not get a turn?
What about Hutch?
I thought Hutch, Wick, you know, in all of these things. That's what I would encourage you to do. But I appreciate you coming here, and so I'll give Wick the next word, and then you get to close
Does
this
Hutch
out.
not get a turn?
What about Hutch?
I thought Hutch did. I thought you were.
Wow.
Oh, Hutch, my bad.
There we go. All right, so these are the closing statements. So this is where Wick really holds their feet to the fire, okay? So we're not going to be able to totally analyze this because we haven't watched the whole podcast, so we can't actually tell whether they were kids' gloves, whether or not. But we can see Wick lose his mind over it, so that's funny.
Fuck me, right?
Bro,
Is that your
I'm sorry,
catchphrase?
Hutch.
Hey, I'm used to it. It's fine.
No, fuck you. No, I thought you were like do it because you did the first invitation. You did the first like eloquent like
Friends
closing
with
thing. I'm
the
sorry.
man.
Go
No,
ahead.
Hutch has to get
Yeah,
has
you
to
go.
say something.
You
I mean,
go,
I'll
bro.
keep it brief. Listen,
No, go
like
ahead.
it sounded like you were a bit self-conscious in the beginning. I just want to clarify for me. I'm pretty sure this is the case for my co-host as well. But like, I didn't go into this with some preconceived notion of who you are. I'm not thinking about the last election, to be honest with you. What's done is done, and I don't like Josiah said it really well, where it's like I don't need you to feel regret. That's not really anything that matters right now. And I would just say that like I appreciate you coming into this forum. It can be kind of overwhelming if you're like not used to this, and you know, I won't name any names, but some people in chat are just fucking hostile, and it's crazy. And so like you know, like I'm appreciative of the fact that you came on, and you seem like an open-minded person. I think that's a genuine open-mindedness. I think it's a genuine curiosity, and at the end of the day, like if we don't convince you, we don't convince you. It is what it is. But I just want to stress that the stakes of this moment, I think, are very, very high. I think in many ways we live in the most pivotal moment in the last like 75 years. You know, I think you'd have to go back to like the 60s to really pick another time in history that mattered more in this moment. There's an inflection point. Like we can either go in this direction over here or something that I think is really quite dark and existential. And so, you know, I'm not gonna judge you. And if you want to be a part of this, then come on over. Yeah.
So,
Here we go.
thank you.
Spit your
actually,
shit,
for having
Wick.
us on. I do appreciate it.
Very polite.
It's your house, your rules, right? I enjoyed the conversation somewhat, but I would be remiss if I did not say this was a very, very frustrating conversation for several reasons. We talk about inauthenticity on the left, right? And what I felt, it might not be true, but this is the impression that was given. You guys had kid gloves on the whole time. If you think she's retarded, call her retarded. If you think she's retarded, call her retarded. If you think she's retarded, call her retarded. And I can't stress this enough. You guys, well, I don't want to really, you're treating her like, well, I don't really want to make you feel regret or anything. And it's not important. You're still
I don't think
a
that
good
was
person
my
and things
attitude
like
at all,
that.
to be fair.
You guys,
Maybe these other three posers,
hold on,
but
you
not
guys
me,
came off
goddammit.
as very inauthentic, frankly. Okay, you did. You simply did. Like, in this whole thing.
Pisco's not happy. Pisco is not happy.
And I don't know how else to stress that people would rather have a screaming match with you than feel like you were lying to them.
Dude, fuck you. Honestly,
Good.
fuck you.
Yes,
Really,
this
like,
is the energy
go to
we
hell.
want.
No.
So why do you bring that against
on the one
me?
hand, on the one hand, so this is so fucking performative from fucking Wick. So Wick is like, oh, you can't yell at people. You were doing her with.
Let's go, Pisco. Let's go. Kill him, Pisco.
Oh my god! And now you're gonna fucking you're doing this post and like we were treating her with kid gloves when Econoboi was going hard on her. I was pointing out what I view were contradictions. You are so full of shit, and you're wherever the wind blows. So if we were too berating on her, you'd be like, oh my god, all these men ganging up on her, and you know you're making her feel guilty. And now you're saying we had kid gloves on.
Can I take
Fuck
that's gonna be
you.
best for content? Which way is the wind blowing here? That's what's
I think
happening
the
right now.
screaming. I think the screaming match probably would have been better for content. Wick.
If I-
He was
disagree on that.
he not saying they were like guilt tripping her earlier? He was like kind of, you know, almost like tone policing them, right? He was saying, "Oh, don't make you feel guilty," but now it's all of a sudden it's you should have gone harder.
If I may, right? If I may, right? Well, you have brand risk and brand concerns as well as that. But I think that when it comes down to what did we learn tonight? And I fear we learned nothing. And that is my frustration with the panel. But I love you guys. I do, even if I hate you, right? And I think that we should really come to terms with the fact that Democrats are in a bad spot. They're in a bad spot right now, okay?
Dude, like, now it's just launching into some fucking retarded, like, soy rant about, you know, guys, Democrats are in a really bad spot. We gotta really figure out the messaging, guys. Shut the fuck up, man, please.
We have to figure out why they are in that spot, what we can do to fix it, and then
Oh
we
my
have to
God.
implement the changes necessary to do so. And that is both on a policy level and a cultural level. And I think we can't ignore one for the other, and we mistake often how influential randos on the internet or randos in people's lives can be. And perhaps it wasn't the case with
Dude. You see, what you forget is that us YouTube politics streamers, we're just like the most important people. Okay, Wick. Alright, Wick. Alright, man, take it easy.
with Tolly, but I know many people who were simply turned off because they were treated like shit by the other side.
You just
right?
told me to call her.
Yeah,
regardless.
real. I'm stunned. Before we go to Tally, like you threw a
So
firecracker
stupid.
there. So I'm curious. Like,
Do you not
I
understand
think
the difference?
I do. I think that there.
No, I actually don't understand the difference. I think it's
No,
fucking
you're-
stupid. It's
hold on.
I know,
think
I know.
you're- yeah.
This is part of the problem. You don't, right? Like this is part
You're
of the
accusing me of insincerity. You think that I'm just sitting here boiling with contempt for her, and I'm not.
No.
That
No,
is
I think
my
you were one of the
authentic
more like Hutch out of all these people. Well, I
Hutch.
met Josiah in real life.
Hutch.
Josiah and I are boys, right? But Hutch, out of all these people, I think we are closest aligned, right, in temperament.
You said he was
Things like
fucking
that.
shaming her. You said he was.
He
guilting
was!
Her. What? So what? Wait, so is Hutch now immune from your criticism because you guys are boys? What are you talking about? You're
Dude,
so
Wick's
full of
getting
shit.
absolutely
Do you
owned. Oh
understand
no.
how I can be much more temperamentally inclined towards Hutch, but still he think he did something that I wouldn't agree with in one case?
Oh my god.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay, great, awesome. That's all that's happened here. So to imply that this is like, oh, you have one criticism of Hutch, that means you must hate Hutch, is just silly. Again, authenticity. I can't claim this enough. One of the reasons Destiny is so effective, like him or not, is because you know what you're getting with that Destiny. He would have
Oh
called
my
Tolly
god.
a cuck. He would have called Tolly a terrible person. He
You-
would have
you-
called
Destiny-
Tolly.
You guys don't snap to that. You guys aren't like Destiny. You guys aren't like Destiny. You got you. Okay, I'm not doing the back saying. We're not doing the back saying again. Okay, I almost started doing it. We're not gonna do it.
Retarded.
Destini's
I
conversational
think that might have been
strategies
more
vary.
effective.
And we
No,
should have done that.
respectfully,
And we should have
yeah.
done that. We should
If
have done
that's
that.
what
Wick.
you feel, yes.
Oh, bro.
Oh my god.
So okay.
Well,
listen
to be
me.
fair, I was really hoping that the conversation would go in a direction that they didn't think that I was retarded and terrible,
Fair enough.
even if they strongly disagree with me.
Yeah, I think that we made it clear we strongly disagree and are often perplexed by her worldview. I don't understand most of it. I understand some of it because I've heard it before from family members. But yes, I'm not like it would have probably been better content had we just screamed at her, 4-on-1, 5-on-1 the entire time. But that's not the point. Like I thought this was like a conversation with a random Trump voter with whom we disagree. Yeah.
Wait, what is Becky posting? Becky posting clips from my stream.
I do think there might be something there.
No, you've been out.
I'm gonna like Misery break his
yeah, I know.
ankles. I'm gonna like Misery where she kidnaps a guy and
Whick
breaks
is
his
wrong
ankles.
about Tiny.
Okay.
You may expect to not have your grinder hookup recorded, or you may not expect a mangled phimotic willy. But
Thank
then
you
it
for the
is.
$5, Tetris Chemist. Thank you, huge appreciated.
I do think that after Beckett and I broke up, I think that he stopped hating me as much. So I think there might be something there. Like I think legitimately, I think he just wants Beckett.
I want Beckett.
I know you've been out.
I think that's a huge part of it.
It's true. Me and Becky are gonna be together forever. Me and Becky can be together forever. I'm gonna like Misery break his ankles. I'm gonna like Misery. Misery where she kidnaps a guy and breaks his ankles.
Penny, for God's...
Shh, darling. Trust me.
God's sake.
It's for the best.
Penny, please!
It's gonna be me.
I'm not bothered by it. That makes sense. Isn't that like... I blame the internet for constantly throwing both around like they're the same. It's unwatchable and
Read a book.
more chud.
Becca can't write a book. Becca can't even read a book. That ninja dyslexic as hell. Okay.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Somebody, now, if it's somebody like Lactoid, you know, that I have a history with, that I enjoy sparring
Yeah,
with,
we fucking do.
And it's a one-on-one. It's not a 5v1 against, like 4. Of course, I'll send him a fuck you. I don't know this girl. I don't know who she is. So, yeah, I do not apologize.
I told Pisco to shut the fuck up multiple times this episode.
Exactly. And honestly, that was quite frankly the highlight.
Tell her
Not a girl.
once.
I'm not going to tell Tally.
told.
Tally, maybe on our second conversation, I will tell you to shut the fuck up, okay? If that makes you feel any better, but not on our first, okay? Like, yeah.
She was giving it back. I felt that. I think you're trying. I actually think this is really sinister from Whick. I think Whick is trying to. I think this is actually really sinister. I think you're trying to concoct a sexism angle. That's why it's so incoherent. You're trying to play. Wait, is it sexism if they treat her very differently and they're like really not mean to her, or is it sexism when they like are giving her retreat gloves? So you're trying to concoct some kind of sexism angle, and that's why you're not making any fucking sense, boy.
You think that
with the
sex?
Sorry, what did Pisco just say? What did Pisco just say? Can we? I need an instant replay of that.
Is it sexism if they treat her very differently and they're like really not mean to her, or is it sexism when they like are giving her retreat gloves? So you're trying to concoct some kind of sexism angle, and that's why you're not making any fucking sense, boy.
Oh, that's why you're not making any fucking sense, boy. That's hard. That's hard. We're gonna take that. We're gonna take that.
You think that sexism, out of all the words I said, sexism
I think you're trying to concoct that narrative, and that's why
is the one you
that's
got.
why you're not making sense. That's why
Well,
you're not
I
making
dislike
sense.
I dislike women, but I'm going to put that aside.
I
for this
actually gotta say,
conversation.
I do kind of disagree with Pisco here. I don't think that's quite what Wick's trying to do.
Press the play button and make jokes, boy. Index pointing at the viewer emoji, index pointing at the viewer emoji, index pointing at the viewer emoji.
Thank you for the $5, Kilo. I don't think that's quite what Wick's trying to do. I do think Wick is trying to, in his own autistic, freaky little way, he is trying to make a point about how, you know, this is like what him and Erudite and all these people are thinking right now, isn't it? It's like, you gotta say retard, you have to attack your enemies. Yeah, that's what they're all saying right now. You know, so I feel like he is just trying to bring up this grandstanding point of like, oh, this is how we fix the Dems. I think that's what he wants to do. I don't think it's about the sexism idea.
Like
That's very big of you that you're able to separate your side from your
Me too.
misogyny. Yeah.
I don't understand how you how you got to sexism from anything I
You want to
said.
have a conversation about this conversation, and you can't really articulate what's the problem here. Is the problem that we were too mean, or that we weren't mean enough, we weren't authentic enough? I thought we were authentic.
I said it
for
three
you, it's like
times in
it's
a row.
only authentic.
Inauthentic. Did I
Okay.
stutter?
In what respect? Show me where like we're using the R slur as other people. Like in what? You're on a show called Live and Learn, where like the most I don't know violent we'll get at each other is when like Econoboi and Hutch are arguing about like should we include lefties or not, and it's never what you're saying. So you just don't have a good comprehension of the show, and you think that we're being inauthentic when we're being our authentic selves.
Every single one of you, one-on-one and in other venues, and you do not act like
This
you
is
did
not a debate. This was not a debate. It's different if it's a debate in like a conversation where she's outnumbered
I've
5
had
to 1.
conversations that are not debates with all of you, one-on-one in various venues. They did not act like you acted tonight.
Which was what? Which is like not ourselves, is what you're saying.
Yes, inauthentic.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, Wick, to be clear, we had there was like an exact analog to this with me personally when I
Thank you for the $5 Switch cameras. Hugely appreciate it. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Joe Lewis on your show about essentially why he doesn't support voting for Democrats. And like, I just don't recall calling Joe Lewis a dumb fuck or a retard or an asshole during that. That was like a 2-hour discussion. And I mean, I remember acting substantially the same way. I mean, I don't know, Wick. You've lost the plot on this one, Wick. You've lost the plot on this one.
I'm just saying,
hey guys,
like,
go
people,
watch that debate
people
between
look
me
at
and
these
Joe, and you
things
tell me
and they make their
if I act
judgments, and
differently.
I guess we'll see, right? But
Tali's been waiting to give her
I do
closing statement
appreciate
for-
being on here, and I do appreciate. I think part of the problem is I look at this and I view it as there's a car and we're all in a car, because I want to preface this. It's very
Pisco is
important.
grinding his teeth.
It's very important that we win in the midterms. It is very important. It is the most important thing that we win in the midterms. We have to take back the House and the Senate if we can, right? Nothing else is more important than that, right? I think we can all agree on that, at least, right? That is a touchstone that we can agree on. What I am seeing, and it's not just you guys, I see this all the time. I am seeing the Democrats, right, and the left in general, driving towards a big fat fucking L. A big fat fucking L. And I'm like, we got to swerve. We got to turn. We got to do something. Put on the brakes. Something has to be done. And you're just driving off a cliff to the biggest L of our lives. And it's the biggest cell phone, because there is never a better time where we can take a W.
You want to bet $50
policies
that
of Trump are going to devastate this country,
You wanna
and
bet $50
people are
that
going
We
to
got to change politics on the Live and Learn podcast, on the Live and Learn podcast with 900 YouTube subscribers.
take a L to Trump under those circumstances is going to be very, very.
Let's bet $50. Let's bet $50. I think the Democrats are going to fuck them up in the midterms.
$50.
$50.
You got to define a parameters, guy. What does it mean to our Democrats?
The last time a man challenged Wick like this, he backed down.
It's going to be a
True. Andrew Wilson put up $20,000 to take me on, right? And then I gave him a date, and he never said shit.
Hutch will take that 10,000 and raise you.
Listen, they're going to kick millions of people off of healthcare. It's going to happen. They're going to do it like fucking tonight. And
The problem is, if we
up.
change, look, Hutch, you're correct if we change course. If we don't change course, you're incorrect. And I don't know if we're going to change course, because right now we are having a struggle session, right, in the left on the Democratic Party. There is a wrestle for control and a path forward of what our messaging is going to be, what our rhetoric is going to be, how we're going
I
to
hate the constant we. Bro, what relevance do you have to the fucking Democratic Party establishment? I'm sorry. Whether fucking Gavin Newsom leads the Dems, or if it's someone else, or AOC, or Bernie Sanders, what fucking relevance does it have to you? That isn't we. You're an onlooker. You're like an onlooker. I don't even think you vote in like Democratic primaries or anything like that. You show up at the national election, maybe the midterms, and that's it. Like, you're a 50 viewer YouTuber. It's not we. Why don't you just say what you think the Dems should be doing? Instead of going like, we're just having a struggle session. Why don't you just lay out exactly what you think should be happening and see if people agree with it or not?
how we're going to approach different things, what we will do. If we choose correctly, if we go the Whick way, okay, we will win. If we go the Pisco route, we're going to lose.
What's my route? What's my route? What are you talking? You're just taking shit at me because I yelled at you. There's no like actual point there. If you take the Pisco route,
because you want AOC and he wants a moderate type. That's what he's saying. He's like,
is that what you're referencing?
If you want a radical or someone who's on the far left.
Okay. Oh, yeah. And here it comes out. Here it comes out. It's because Pisco isn't bought into the retarded narrative that, oh, every single lefty or progressive has to be completely excised from the Democrats. Because Pisco doesn't believe it's retarded shit.
Then yes, that is a recipe for disaster.
AOC's the radical. Okay.
I think AOC is much more radical than the people I would choose, like Josh Shapiro. He's the main guy on my mind right now. I probably could think of more if I.
That's your fucking Pennsylvania bias coming in.
Bashir might be okay, right?
I have to see this. I have to see this before I retweet it. Hi, Master Destiny. Please tell us, Master Destiny. Please tell us about politics. Hi, Master Destiny. Hi, Master Bono. Hi, Master Bono. What happened on January 6th, Master Bono? Tell us about January 6th. Master Bono. Master Bono. Can you explain the Tenet media scandal to me, Master Bono? Masabano? Can you explain the tenant media scandal to me, Mr. Masabano? Masabano, can I ask you something about this tenant media scandal? Masabano? I'm having trouble reading, Masabano. Masabano, you sure do speak good and mighty fast. Your words like a cool wind in my face on a hot July afternoon. When we are in them fields, we sing songs about Moses and the promised land, Gaza. Stylo's mad. Stylo's seething. So I say, because that was good at the end. Okay? You're seething because it was good at the end. Sabano, you sure do speak good and mighty fast. Your words like a cool wind in my face on a hot July afternoon. When we are in them fields, we sing songs about Moses and the promised land, Gaza. That's good. The July was good. Thank you for the $20, Night Owl. It's hugely appreciated. Thank you, Night Owl. July afternoon. Okay.
Let's get Tally's closing statement.
Yeah, come on.
Anyway, but yeah, okay, I have a problem. And see, the authentic thing is to actually share and go with the energy that you feel. And I did. Tally, go ahead.
Yeah, God damn it, Tally. There you go. I've just yelled at her. Come on. Go ahead. You can give your closing statement.
Thank you. I thought I'm really happy with the way this went. I appreciate that it wasn't so adversarial. I think that was more effective. I hear Whick on the authenticity thing, but I didn't feel like anyone was really being inauthentic. I saw Econoboi has a very bad poker.
Whick and Erudite met with some low-level Democratic Party intern and now they've become insufferable, thinking they're now experts at getting Dems elected.
Thank you for the $10 from the South Side. Huge appreciate. Thank you so much.
Face, so like his reactions were telling me a lot, but I don't think he was being inauthentic in anything that he said to
reactions.
me. Yes, very authentic facial reactions. There were a lot of compelling points here, and I'm glad that we got to. I know that there's frustrations. I need to work on articulating, my worldview in a quick and digestible way, especially when I'm trying to go through like a years-long process here. But I feel like for the most part, you guys met me where I was at, and I think.
Who was your favorite?
Hutch, you were the most compelling, but that's not surprising because I'm already a Hutch fan. No, really, this was
now
great
we're gonna have to deal
with
with that
everyone.
forever. Thank you, Tally. We're gonna have to deal with his ego.
No, but it's. I messaged Hutch like after that panel that we were on together, and I was just like, "Oh, I would love to talk to you about this kind of stuff," but I actually feel like it's bad for Hutch. Like, I think there's going to be people that are going to be angry with Hutch that someone like me, a Trump voter, likes.
I
Hutch.
don't.
Oh,
give a
if you-
fuck.
I know
you
you
want
don't
to
give a fuck,
show-
and I respect
if you want to
Hutch.
show
She's just
people-
correct here.
Exactly.
If you want to
Exactly.
show everybody's mad at Hutch at various points, you're
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Right, but I didn't want to contribute to that. So I think there were compelling points, and again, speaking to what I see as the concerns, because I wish, even though you guys disagree, I wished you would have maybe taken on more when I was, and maybe I didn't explain myself perfectly, but taken on more when I'm saying I'm sort of looking at a different dynamic, right? I'm not just looking at right and left. I'm looking at this horseshoe and sort of the top and the bottom of this horseshoe. And so speaking to me about the isolationism and the anti-interventionism and the withholding of foreign aid and stuff on the right speaks to me, but I share some of those same concerns on the left. And the right has power right now, and they're the ones enacting this, right? So I don't have a perfect answer right here, and I am compelled by, now that we've seen what's happened so far in the Trump administration, lesser of two evils, and changing my analysis. So these things are compelling to me. I appreciate this. I don't know how to overcome. I guess like the problem too is like, I'm just not convinced. I guess like, sure, Democrats want my vote, and people who don't want Trump in power want my vote. And it's not all about me, blah, blah, blah. But I think I represent some cohort of people. I don't actually know that like my views are wanted in the Democratic party. I don't know really if they do fit. That doesn't mean that I shouldn't vote for them, right? That doesn't mean that I shouldn't do my own analysis. But yeah, I don't know. Does that resonate with anybody? I hope you guys hear where I'm coming from. And again, I was really nervous about this conversation. I did think that it was going to be blood sports craziness, and I'm glad that it wasn't. Because on just a personal level, I mean, no one wants to be hated.
Not
like
Whick.
That, but on personal,
Wick is fucking mad it wasn't blood sports.
Wick's trying to feed you to the fucking wolves.
I want to be clear, Tali. We're going to talk about this later, but I think you're on inauthentic too. The conversations we've had were not represented here.
What is going on, Wick?
Holy fuck! Wait,
Wick,
you're being
Wick is just taking no prisoners.
Wait. You're being unauthentic because you're like, oh, I think you're being unauthentic. I'll talk to you about it later. So you're the real sexist.
Wick is actually trying to use us as his puppets, his pawns, as he creates some sort of blood sports arena here. And by the way,
blood sports.
Why was she inauthentic? How dare you? How dare you? I thought you were. Wait, I thought you were being inauthentic. Wait,
listen, before you guys get into it, I'm sorry.
Just
before you guys get into it, I have to make one observation to Tali with what she said. Tali, seriously, I want you to know, because you said Hutch is the most compelling. I actually gave Hutch his answers in a DM privately, okay? So I just want you to know that.
Why would you tell them that, though?
I know. Well, now you've been exposed.
Up,
yeah, I bet you feel like a fucking dick now. I'm sorry.
That's
Wick and Pisco, you guys can fight now.
Wait, no, Josiah, would you welcome Tali?
Josiah,
would you welcome Tali into a coalition without calling her a fucking idiot and blah, blah, blah?
Sure.
We're not just a fucking idiot, but like a racist and a bit like there are things that I believe that a non-insignificant number of people on the left view as racist and sexist.
You know, we had Brad Palumbo on the podcast, right? Like we were friendly with him. We
sexist today by Pisco for I don't know what.
Well, no, I said you were trying to. First of all, I said that you were trying to manufacture sexism.
You're trying to frame
That's what I said. And then just then I said you were the real sexist. Just then I just said you because you're like, oh, I also think you're inauthentic. You squeeze it in and be like, but we'll talk about that later.
In the other text thread.
Before the conversation, Tali was like, hey, after the panel, can we talk? And I'm mentioning that because that's what we said. Right, we're going to do.
But not
we're going to talk after this without you,
You are,
Wick.
And that's okay.
Yeah, you're not invited, Wick.
That's okay.
So the only one who wasn't inauthentic today, the only one who wasn't inauthentic.
I don't know how Kuihman can lose a 1v5 debate against me and repeat all the same wrong points in this conversation as if that didn't happen. Guy is just retarded. Lol. Well, feel free to call in. If you did it once, 1v5, it should be easy 1v1, right? Or even with a moderator. It should be easy, right? Of course. This guy's sitting there listening to Twitter Spaces offline, by the way. This guy, the most offline guy who doesn't spend any time on the internet, is sat there listening to Twitter Spaces about J-Stoke drama. Like, well, what are they saying about me? What are they saying about me? What are they saying about me? The most offline guy in the world. So offline he can't Google what did Destiny do to those women before he makes his video. Has to call Erudite on the landline to have the story explained to him. So that's how offline and boomer this guy is. He's calling Erudite on the landline, on the business number on the landline, to get the story explained to him. I can't do a country voice. He's like, Erudite, can you fax me the Kilo video? Erudite, can you? You racist fuck. I am racist. So. I'm thinking about it. I'm not gonna do it. I'll embarrass myself. The racist one's funny. The racist one is funny, unfortunately. Yeah, calling Erudite on the landline, having the Kilo video faxed to him. But first-hand sources only. I only believe it if it comes down the landline. You can print out any old screenshot, you know. How do I know you didn't make that in Paint and then print it out before you mailed that to me? You know, that's how Willie is with Reddit evidence, with external evidence, screenshots. Right, it's just so crazy to act like this.
It was Whick. How convenient for you, Whick. You were the only one who was being authentic in this whole panel.
That's why his
Very
flag is
content,
backwards.
which you might not have.
It's like his
if
whole argument in that quote-unquote 1v5, which was actually a series of debates. But either way, his whole argument was, yeah, well, I just like suck at my job. Yeah, I'm just like a retard who sucks at my job. That's his counter-argument to everything. Is like, yeah, I'm like a retard who sucks at my job. I'm like just offline, man. What, you expect me to look at Reddit and Kiwi Farms as a commentary YouTuber?
Shit, I'm a Whick fan. I'm actually a Whick fan, believe it or not.
Any other panel I've been on, or any other venue I've been on, right? Whether they be on my side, against my side, whether they be big names or small names, you're gonna get Whick. You know what you're getting. This is what I'm getting.
I didn't call you inauthentic.
You just got Whick, bro.
I just said it's very convenient that
you just wicked you
down,
down,
bro.
You just got Whick down hard.
Wick
Listen,
on him.
I don't even hate Whick. I don't hate Whick.
On him.
I'm a Whick fan.
Hate Whick.
I'm a Whick fan. I'm a Wick fan. But I just want to say,
you called me a cuck.
I didn't call.
You
Did I call
called
you
me
a cuck?
yesterday. Get the clip,
Was that
gang.
as a joke? Okay, maybe I called you a cuck.
Okay, but you called me a cuck, and it's okay.
It was a meme. It's a meme.
Like, I'm a
you
Whick
say
fan.
Oh, unfortunately, Willie might be. If anyone has, I think I know they do. I believe them too. So, if anyone has information that might contest this, I would be appreciative if you'd volunteer it publicly. To be honest, I would be. Willie went after President Sunday for worthless shit. The only reason that's there is because Willie took the erudite. Sunday completely misreported the story and went forward with the victim. So I don't know if I said completely worthless. I think I tried to say comparatively worthless. Because it is comparatively worthless to the Destiny stuff. Sunday misrepresented the story and went forward without the victim. That's absolutely worth condemnation. I condemn that point when I spoke about it. I talked about him because Lonerbox and Pixie complained about him. Okay. Okay, I don't know what sense that makes. Erudite only answered questions around Pixie. She hardly talked about Sunday with me because who cares what she thinks about Sunday? Is this true? Is that true, Willie? Is that true, Willie? Is that true, Willie?
Words, you say words.
Yesterday, when I wasn't here and you didn't think I was listening, you called me a cuck.
Cuckoldry is a neutral concept. There's no, it's not
Yes,
like
it's
good or
not
bad.
saying-
It's
This
just
is what I mean
bad
by
about being a
inauthentic.
cuck. What's wrong with being a cuck? 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 I don't remember that I
Nothing's
called you
wrong
a cuck,
with
but
being a cuck, but if that's
okay,
what
so
you
you're a
think I
cuck
am,
then. You're a cuck.
If that's what you think I am, call to me to my face. This
Yes, you're very
both
much a
sides of the
cuck.
mouth where you say shit when I'm not here, and
Okay,
then when I
yeah,
am
okay.
here, you're like, oh, I'm a Wick fan.
I don't know if
That's all
you have
great.
hearing
That's
problems.
all
I just
fun.
said you're a cuck, and that's great.
Inauthentic.
It's
And
wonderful
I'm
that you're a cuck.
I'm glad that you're finally admitting it because I am bringing out the authenticity in you, and this is why you all need me.
yeah,
Okay.
I was a little
Need me.
disappointed when Pisco went easy on you tonight. I mean, it was like,
yeah, I was going
You know
so
what it
easy on you,
is?
Wick.
You know what it is? It's because Wick and I had a shouting match the first conversation we had because it was about Harry Reid in the Supreme Court, which is like the ultimate trigger for me. So Tally, full disclosure, if we ever debate the Supreme Court, I might raise my voice. Okay, I might get red in the face and like start frothing at the mouth and twitching if we ever talk
You're
about the Supreme
against
Court.
Harry Reid.
I love Harry Reid. I miss Harry
Overthrowing
Reid.
the-
Let's
okay.
bring Harry Reid back. No,
Okay.
long story
That's okay,
short
silly
is,
serious.
yeah.
I think you were the reason that Trump won.
Who?
Why are you? Wait,
Silly
so
serious. She's
why are you
talking
calling
shit
her
in
out?
chat. Get
What-
on the
what-
phone. Okay, look.
Dude, wait, now he's attacking Pisco's girlfriend in chat, dude.
I know.
What?
I'm not gonna.
Because she's a
your
woman?
Show, I don't
Because
know
she's a
if
woman.
Collins, but if you
Because
want,
she's a
you want
woman.
to say it to my face, if you have any kind
What is she supposed to
of
do? She wasn't invited to the fucking show.
bravery, she can come anytime. I do Collins, and she
Bro,
can come
she's
on my show. We can
Australian.
go on a
She, like,
different venue if
routinely
she wants.
kills-
But
She's the
Silly
reason
Serious
Trump-
is one of the most brain dead
You
people I've
stole her
ever tried
fucking
to read.
phrase. You said from the silly to the serious. You stole it from her.
And
You
that
stole her
shit is
idea.
like
It's from the silly to the
ChatGPT
serious.
level
Her
shit.
name is silly serious, and you stole that from her. From the silly to the serious, and no one wants to talk about it. But I'm bringing it up now since you went after her. You stole it from her.
Wait,
You're
are
a
you being
thief.
serious with
You
that?
are a thief. You are a thief. You have your phrase.
I can't
We have
tell
these
if
ideas
you're,
from the
yeah, I
silly
can't
to
tell
the
if you're actually
serious.
joking
Silly
now.
serious. That's her phrase. And
Do you
stole
owe
it.
her royalties, Wick?
Okay, you all are trolling me. Okay.
I think he might.
Yeah. I do.
What do you mean? I'm complete. I'm
Pisco,
authentic.
you
I'm
sold
authentic.
that pretty well. I gotta
You
say,
did sell
like,
it
that
pretty
was-
well. That's why I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, no, yeah, okay, it's a troll.
From the
Fair enough.
silly to the, I never even drew that fucking connection.
That's his phrase.
That's
That's-
hilarious.
wait,
Yes,
wait,
that's
wait,
great.
that-
Welcome to
that's
a
his
Wick
phrase.
panel where we
I know
discuss
that's his-
cultural-
yeah.
local and cultural
Yeah.
and the silly and the serious. Yes.
Dude.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
But yeah, I just
My
I just
body
don't
is-
respect people like her. It's just gross.
My body is
And
absorbing
dumb,
my fat
frankly,
reserves.
Retarded.
Oh, we gotta
Did you
we
just
gotta
call
let.
her retarded?
I did call her retarded, and I'll do it to her
Jesus.
face. I've had a
Bro.
conversation with before, and she was one of the most dumb people. Like, look, I debated Tim Pool, and I mopped the floor with him, but she was somehow dumber than
That
Tim
was
Pool.
pathetic. Your appearance at Tim Pool was pathetic. Everyone laughed at you.
Everyone laughed at me. Well,
Yeah, they
people
were like,
congratulate
"Why did
me
he
for that all the
shave?"
time. They think I did very good.
Dude, Pisco. What?
Did they now? Why?
Well,
why
Lactoid
on-
doesn't. Lactoid thinks I lost, but
No.
that's Lactoid.
Well, he's libertarian, so fuck Lactoid. Okay. All right. Well, listen, we got to let Hutch go because he says that he's absorbing something into his fat or something. I don't
dying.
know what he said. Yeah.
My
So
body is-
listen, thank you so much, Tally. You were a good sport about this, and yeah, well, the jury will render a verdict after. I was going to say cloture, being sequestered.
Who's the jury? That's a little
That's
scary.
that's a really. It's hopefully not chat, because if it's chat,
It's God.
Jesus, you're going down the row, if you know what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna pull the lever.
The
but,
chat would have me walk the plank for sure, a couple times over.
Yeah. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thanks, chat, for watching.
Thank
Everybody,
you.
have a good
Hey,
night.
Wick. It's all good. Hey,
I know.
much love.
We're all
Stay
good.
cool.
It's all fine.
And by the way, last
Wow.
message: Wick wants to
This is
expand
like
the
an
Supreme
episode of
Court.
Wow.